Hello, my name is Luke Androsky, and this is the Emergency Factory Project by Hermtech. Next slide. There has been an increase in major disaster events within the US and on a global scale, year after year. Last year alone, there was a record of 22 separate billion-dollar weather and climate disasters in the US. On top of that, the COVID-19 pandemic reached the US. The global just-in-time supply chain came crashing down, unable to even put a dent in the unbelievable demand for personal protective equipment, as well as critical life support equipment that hospitals needed to save lives devastated by the virus. Just under a year ago, when the whole country shut down and began quarantine, millions of Americans lost their jobs. We were isolated. There was nothing we could do. PPE was non-existent. Information was scarce. Healthcare workers were drowning in a tidal wave of cases, lucky to have even a single disposable mask, and were expected to make that mask last not once, but for days, if not weeks at a time. But we had a spark, the maker spark. How could we help? Before Hermtech, before this VA Maker Challenge, we banded together from all over the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, bolstered by a global community of maker support. In a day, we had a design. In a week, we had production. Before the titans of manufacturing could ramp up and ship PPE to our cities, volunteers from all walks of life came together and we made over 30,000 face shields for local hospitals and first responders. We were agile. We served a desperate need when supply was at its most critical. In Challenge 5, we were asked again what we could do to help disaster relief workers. We channeled what we learned from the beginning. We can make local, agile, self-sufficient. This is the Emergency Factory. Next slide. The Emergency Factory project is a microfactory deployed as discrete, self-sufficient shipping containers housed at VA facilities across the United States. These microfactories will leverage pre-certified blueprint libraries and shared raw materials to allow for a tailored fit supply response on a local level for natural disasters and pandemics. Next slide. The microfactory container is used for fabricating components, and an ancillary container for holding a stockpile of raw material, plus the capability to recycle local materials such as plastic bottles, scrap aluminum, and basic chemicals into usable feedstock when it is unavailable from a supply chain perspective. For a pandemic, PPE such as plastic face shields, surgical or N95 masks, gowns, and gloves are produced. Nasal swabs and critical components such as ventilator valves or even ventilators themselves can be also made. Next slide. These microfactories can not only benefit the VA, but organizations such as the US military, FEMA, Red Cross, UNICEF, and others. The Emergency Factory is a dual-use force multiplier, putting production in arm's reach from where it needs to be. Next slide. So this is our ask. We have a projected cost of $2 million to build the first factory, to begin development of the virtual blueprint library, to produce training materials, and validation of production techniques within the microfactory. Funding will also assist in the navigation of government and enterprise sales channels, supply partnerships, and an expansion of the project's intellectual property portfolio. Thank you.